So by now, you're probably realizing that the rhizosphere is more than just meets the eye. Soil is a very dynamic substance, and we really need it to be good and rich and full to take care of your plants. So let's just review a little bit. What is soil? First of all, you do have to have the mineral component: sand, silt, and clay. So sand, we talked about sand is really needed so that you have plenty of pore space for drainage and that the roots can move easily through the soil. Clay, we need clay for its ability to hold the roots and also its negative ions. And silt is rich in some nutrients. Silt is actually sort of the middle ground between sand and clay, and it usually comes from riverbeds, creek beds, things like that. So sand, silt, and clay are your mineral components. There's much, much, much more in the rhizosphere besides just the mineral components. There's microflora, microfauna, organic matter. Let's talk about some of our microorganisms. Let's talk about a few of the things that are microscopic in the soil that you can't see, but they're there. One, we have lots of bacteria in the soil. So bacteria are not we think of bacteria as being bad, but bacteria are certainly not all bad. There's good bacteria. There are some bad bacteria, but there's some really good needed bacteria in the soil. We're going to talk about just a couple of them, not a lot, but a couple. So what's the one bacteria you already know that infects the roots of legumes? It infects the roots of legumes and it helps change unusable nitrogen into usable nitrogen. If you said rhizobium, you're absolutely correct. So another bacteria in the soil that's really important, and this one's really important to us as human beings, is Bacteria vaccae. V-A-C-C-A-E. So Bacteria vaccae has actually been studied and proven to lower depression. It's actually been used to treat cancer patients sometimes for the side effects of medication. It raises your endorphins. So when your grandma told you that there's nothing better for your spirit than to work in the garden and get your hands dirty, she was actually right. Getting your hands in the soil and getting some good Bacteria vaccae can actually lower depression. Let's also talk about, what else do I want to talk about? Let's move on to fungus. So fungus is another thing that we sometimes think is bad. But again, there's some good fungus and there's some bad fungus. There's a really good fungus that I want you to know in regards to plants, and that is the fungus mycorrhizal. Mycorrhizal. So mycorrhizal actually attaches to plant roots and it spreads out even further than plant roots, and it helps get nutrients and water and shares them with the plant. So it actually becomes a really big system for collecting nutrients and water for the plant. It works sometimes better than the plant's own roots. So you definitely really want the fungus mycorrhizal in your soil. Nematodes. This is a microfauna, meaning a little microscopic animal. A nematode is a worm. It's not really related to like earthworms, but it's just a little worm in the soil. And some are good, some are bad, some are neutral. So some of them will actually attack your plant roots and kill your plants and kill your grass. But the good ones, which you can buy good ones, and I never know how do you know if they're really in there in what you buy because they are microscopic, but we just have to hope. But anyway, you can buy good nematodes that will eat the bad ones, or you can apply a chemical called a nematodicide. But there's nematodes, all kinds of nematodes in the soil. That's a microfauna, a microscopic animal. There's also some protozoas in the soil. So there's lots and lots of stuff in your soil, more than meets the eye. So I hope you've enjoyed our soil science, and I'll see you next video.